Hey, folks, welcome to the greatest show this side of the Mississippi. How are you doing this evening, John, our resident millennial right over there? And I am Robert, your resident Gen Xer. And if you don't like that, you can go. How are you doing tonight, John?
Great. I like the new little intro you got. I think it's
I was
got
just,
more pep and like zing to it, you know?
I am off my fucking game, brother. I am a week with
I think
no
we both are,
meds.
man.
I'm a week with no meds. I am shot. I am shot as fuck.
Really? I thought you had that other yeah. I thought you
Well,
had that.
no. That
Or it's just not working the
that
same?
well, that ran out, and it wasn't quite the
Oh.
same. It was. I mean, don't get me wrong, but it runs out too. But they suddenly
Yeah.
people started taking notice of that, and like states where marijuana is legal, they're like, oh no, you're not. You shouldn't be shipping that to states where there's medical marijuana and legal marijuana.
Oh.
So yeah, there's some issues there. So
That was promising, man.
it
That was
was.
definitely promising.
It was, and it was nice. I was. It was having the same good effects as my meds normally do. But it's the issue with now. I'm like, I don't want to try and have something shipped here because that could cause problems.
I mean you can probably get medical
Yeah, I'm gonna do that.
cold.
I'm gonna. I'm
Stuff
gonna.
hurts on you.
I'm gonna pursue the medical thing once we get moved,
Probably a good
to a
idea.
different location.
Yeah, of course. Of course.
Plus this
It's
simple
probably
fact
by
that
the county on that.
yeah, there'll be a big fat check from the house. So, there- because it's not
True.
cheap. It's not cheap to pay for that
Yeah.
script and stuff. I see we got some folks in the house tonight. I see Saint. I see Highleaf. I see Ed. All in the house tonight. I hope that you've all hit the like button. It's very nice when you hit the like button. We do like that. We're fans, and,
Like it.
and if you're really feeling generous, right down there in the description, you can buy us a coffee. Buy us a coffee is always fun. I like coffee. John doesn't really drink that much coffee, but if you
I
if
don't
you
drink coffee at all,
if
actually.
you, I bet if we put a shot of whiskey in it, or you might consider it, right?
I'd be more like certainly more likely. Yeah, if you Irish that coffee up a little bit.
It's very good with some Irish whiskey in it. Saint says I have come for the
But I've
sinners
already
and
got. I
French.
mean,
Do what? Oh yeah, you should add
but I've
some.
already got. I don't really need your coffee.
You should add some coffee to it. Saint says I have come for the sinners and Frenchmen, for they shall be reaped first.
So what's the difference? What's the difference between a sinner and a Frenchman? I don't think they're pretty much the same thing, aren't they?
Dude, do you know what the penalty for slapping the fucking president of France is? 4 months in jail.
What was it?
4 months.
4 months?
4 months in
Dude, that
jail.
is awesome.
4 months.
Legend. That dude is a legend now. Like in his little LARP group, he's a legend. And
He's
4 months,
right. You
he's
know,
gonna
there's
get
going to be
out
people. They're
a
going to be
fucking
like,
legend.
they're going to be like, set up a slapping booth. I'll take 4 months just to get a
Yeah,
whack at you.
for real,
I
for
see.
real.
I
The
see
girls gonna
why.
be throwing blowjobs at him. Holy shit!
I see Wyatt in the house as well. Good to see you this evening, Wyatt. Hi,
What
Leaf.
up?
Oh, yes, those are John's eyes, Ed. He forgot his sunglasses, so those are his eyes. The
Yeah, I'm
distinctive
not
red
on
color
my.
should give
I'm
him
not on
away.
my. Well, they're actually slanted at the moment. I look like I might be of a certain non-white but almost white persuasion, perhaps. There's a racist joke in there, but I don't think it.
Hi, Leaf says, look
Got
up.
Chinese eyes.
He says, look up Fanta soda. It was made by the Nazis because Coca-Cola did not give soda to Germany, so they made their own soda with a different syrup. So every Fanta you drink, you support the Nazis.
It's true. Fanta was a Nazi drink, but it's also like the most popular drink in Mexico and India. I'm sure
Um,
there are other places, but I know those two for sure.
I have to say that probably once every 2 to 3 months, I will either get a Fanta grape or a Fanta orange, just as a guilty pleasure, because I don't want to drink a lot of them. Because they're really sweet and sugary and all that. But that Fanta grape every once in a while is almost like a knee high grape soda. So you know,
Oh,
Saint
knee high. I forgot about knee high.
knee high, yeah.
I saw what it was. He fucked it up. But he retracted his message because he fucked it up. He
That
did it himself.
that does. Ed says the
Hey,
French.
the young philosopher. That's a new face, I think. Right?
Young philosopher loves
Says love
Fanta.
band.
That is a new face in the
Yeah,
chat.
welcome, welcome.
Nice to see you. Nice to see you. Welcome aboard. Uh, Ed says the French are super soy except the Merovingian. That dude was based, right? The Merovingian.
True.
Yeah. Your guilty pleasure is
Based
great
as fuck.
drank. No. Guilty pleasure would
Dude,
be
grape drink.
orange.
Grape drink is
Orange
good as fuck.
drink. It's orange drink that is the guilty.
No, no, and it's also Ed. It's not grape drink. It's purple drink. All right,
It's purple
gotta get
drink.
it right. It's not
Right.
grape. Purple drink.
Um,
Yeah.
Hey, speaking of marijuana, I just wanted to run something by you. The Ninth Circuit Court is trying to decide. There are some people making the assertion that the DEA's classification of marijuana violates federalism and the separation of powers because
Yeah. No shit.
the WHO is involved in the classification, and they're an NGO,
Who's
and
on first?
right, and then
Yeah.
they kind of gave the DEA the go ahead to just pretty much classify it as they want, but those bunch of tards. So they might come to a conclusion that it's in some way unconstitutional to ban marijuana. Wouldn't that be?
I mean, that would be cool. I guess. Like 70 years too late. I would no more like what 90 years too late.
Oh yeah.
Right? Wasn't it like the late 20s or early 30s that it was banned?
19. I want to say that if I remember correctly, if I remember my historical data correctly, it was like 1939 when they made Reefer Madness, and that was a big one
Yeah.
that was DuPont, and they had a lot of impact in that. So it was basically in the late 30s, 1940, that they banned marijuana.
37.
Was it 37?
37.
I was 2 years off. Excuse me. But yeah, so the late 30s
The
is when
the Marijuana Tax Act. Yeah, the Marijuana Tax Act of 1937 effectively made the possession of transfer of cannabis illegal under federal law, excluding medical and industrial uses, with the implementation of an excise tax on all sales of marijuana. There you go.
but
But there were
noted,
other state laws that were put into place before then, but federally is 1937. Because there
but
were, like, in the Southwest, there were state laws that were put in place. And it's going to make me sound like an SJW, but this is 100% the truth. They put this law in because Mexicans smoke weed. So in the Southwest, they banned marijuana in order to kind of control the Mexican population. So they can pretty much round them up whenever they wanted. Which I know that's usually how SJW sound, but that is actually a true case of passing a law due to racism. Like that is a legit thing.
right.
Fuck you.
Is that
Yeah.
racism or nationalism? Come on, let's be serious. Let's be real there.
Well, yeah, fair enough. Fair enough.
But it was, if you look up Reefer Madness, I want to say it was 1939 that DuPont Chemical put that out, because you notice what you said about the tax law in 37. Medical marijuana was still, there was still, function for that. But it was when DuPont put out Reefer Madness, they really got the push to get it classified as a drug where it couldn't be used at all, because they were branching into pharmaceuticals at the time, and it would impact their business because it was just a plant people could grow. They wanted to get that out of there so they could corner the market on medications as they began developing.
Well, it was that the logging industry as well, because they sold their trees down. They sold the logs for paper, whereas most paper was made from hemp before that.
Hemp was
same
the
thing
other
with like
target
ropes,
too.
stuff like that. Rope.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Hemp is I think is like I think that exists in like a legal gray area in the United States, because like some things are made of hemp, but most things aren't. So
Right.
I don't know. There's something to do with the growing. I don't forget the thing, but something to do with like growing it. That's really difficult to do by law. Because of the law, it's hard to grow it. I don't know.
Hey, I want to show you something because I thought this was kind of trippy, and I want to get your take on it. I'm going to share my screen with you so you can see it. Don't spoil it for anybody if it says anything to you, but I'm going to put it up here on the screen. I thought this was kind of cool, and you know, like I said, just want to get your take on it. See if you've ever seen anything like this. This was caught on a nanny cam.
Oh no.
Are you seeing it, dude? It's the
I
fucking
saw it. Yeah, I
predator.
see it.
It's the predator.
Yeah.
On
Yeah.
that's the video. So apparently the camera glitched up, and for some reason
Yeah.
it didn't, and it caught her like that. Like, but everything in the house, everything else is fine, but her movement, it glitched up on her movement. They're like,
It
our
was
fucking
yeah, it was
nanny's a
messing with the
predator.
movement.
Our nanny's the fucking predator. Anyway,
That's funny as fuck.
I thought that would.
I like
just,
it. That's
I
funny.
thought it was kind of cool. I'm like,
It actually reminds me of uh it reminds me because I just watched the first Harry Potter movie earlier today, and yeah, it's got like the invisibility cloak, but like you can like because you're watching the movie, you can kind of see him. Like it reminds me of that too.
yeah. Hey, John, have you been vaccinated yet?
Hell no,
Do you plan on
the
getting
fuck out of here.
vaccinated?
No,
Have you heard? Have you heard?
no,
Have you heard what's going
I
on
haven't.
right now? They're discovering that the vaccine is causing heart inflammation in young people and
Yeah,
and children. Now they're
yeah,
Depression makes
oh,
the week.
shut up. Right now they're saying that it is rare, right? But somebody over in India just died from it.
yeah.
But they are having to hold an emergency meeting on the 18th to explore this, and I'm like, maybe we should have waited for FDA approval. But yeah, it's
Yeah, but that's
causing.
the thing is they wouldn't.
They're looking into cases
Uh,
of myocarditis, which is an inflammation of the heart muscles, but it's specifically in young people and adolescents. So basically, that almost tells
hmm,
me that it's like this is like a strong medicine. Maybe they're not. I don't know. Do they need to
aggressive.
reduce?
Yeah,
Do they need to reduce the dosage for
those
the younger people, or is this just an aggressive
probably.
vaccine that you know, how much of this are we going to start seeing popping up? Now, this is just one thing so far, right? But it's enough that they're going
Yeah.
to start. They're scrambling now. They're like, oh shit, you know. Um, but they're
Oh
saying
shit.
almost. They're
Oh
saying
shit. Those conspiracy theories might not, might
right.
not be so wrong
Well,
after all.
have you seen some of the
Well,
stuff that?
that's the ridiculous thing.
Oh, go ahead.
No, that I was saying that's the ridiculous thing is that like people have been saying like, hey, these things there's been no trials really. Like they've been rushed. They're put out as fast as they can. We don't really know the long term effects of them. We don't know what any kind of other side effects are going to be. Let's study this first. And of course, they're just conspiracy theorists and anti-vaxxers, and they want grandma to die, all this kind of shit. And then of course this starts happening. People are vindicated, and then they're like, "Oh well, no, it's only a few people." Well, okay, well, a few people are it's happening to, but that was enough to lock down the entire country, the entire world,
Right.
because
A point oh one
it's like what
percent
less
mortality
than
rate.
right, and we've locked down the whole world, but there's a 0.01% mortality rate for the vaccine. What? No big deal, right?
Right.
Like, this is stupid. That is stupid. But of course, yeah, of course, you're just a ridiculous conspiracy theorist.
Yeah, my
So shut up, take the vaccine, live in
my
the pod, eat the bugs.
my wife's usual answer to anybody: Have you taken the vaccine? Has the FDA approved it? No. There's your
Yeah.
answer. No. I mean, and even if the FDA does approve it, she's not going to take the vaccine. But the bottom line is, she's like,
I'm
no,
not.
it's there. No. This is a live human testing that's going on right now. That's really what this is. It's just
That's
live
exactly what's
human
happening.
testing.
That's what happens. That's exactly what it is. Yeah. And you have everyone saying like, "Oh, go get vaccinated, go get vaccinated." I understand certain people who do, go and get vaccinated, like people who work in hospitals and other kind of medical kind of stuff, fine, go get vaccinated. Teachers, same thing. If you want to do that, go do that. Cool. But like this whole like everyone needs to get it is just absolutely ridiculous, and especially because of that, because it's experimental at this point. This is not a real vaccine. This is experimental.
Well, see, but but it's so many different places that it's impacted. It's like the Foo Fighters. The Foo Fighters are getting a lot of flack right now because if they say, if their crowds aren't 100% vaccinated, they don't want to do shows, right? They
Okay, let them.
right,
Yeah.
and it's like, dude, really, really, really. And other things, like places that are doing stuff. I've seen one concert promoter was doing something basically normal price
Hang on a
tickets for
second.
people that were vaccinated, and if you weren't
Yeah,
vaccinated, it was $1,000 a ticket.
right.
It's like,
I wonder how many people went to that show, or if it's happened. I don't know if it's happened yet. Um, but let me. Foo Fighters, isn't that? Aren't they just Nirvana without Kurt Cobain? I thought that was like all the original members of Nirvana, right? Am I wrong about that?
basically I think it's Nirvana without a dead lead singer, right?
Right. So they suck anyway, like because Nirvana is garbage. So, why would anyone want to go see them anyway?
Because they've got nothing but. I mean, they've been locked down, John. They've been locked
I
down.
get the fair, but
Right.
still, I mean,
You
who
got to go
wants
do something.
to? Yeah.
He says no, just Dave. So maybe there's only one member from Nirvana in there, but you know.
Oh, just Dave Grohl. I assume that's who you're talking about, right? Dave Grohl. Dave Grohl's kind of a douchebag. I've seen him in like some interviews and stuff. I guess I shouldn't say that because I don't really know him. I don't know like of him all that well. Obviously, I don't know him personally, but I don't know. He just always came off as kind of a douchebag.
Most celebrities are. I'm just saying, most of
Yeah.
them are. Especially when they, try, especially when, you know what? I'm sorry. I don't want you using your fame to promote your politics or bullshit or, your
Oh,
social
that's the
injustice and
worst.
stuff. Right?
That's the
I don't
worst.
need all that.
It's like especially when they're fucking idiots.
Hmm.
That's the worst part. Is when they're fucking idiots and they're like, "Oh, we need to do these things." I'm like, you don't know what you're talking about, dude. You're just, like, just go fucking be rich. It's fine.
Well,
Like,
it's funny that
just
you
go do
mention
that. Go.
it's funny that you mention idiots, because now we're going to talk about a couple of different things that involve idiots. Let's let me let me tell you about
Really? Okay.
Sam Licardo. Okay, do you know who Sam Licardo is?
And Ricardo.
Hmm.
Not, no.
He is the mayor of San Jose, California. San Jose, California, ring a recent bell? There was a mass shooting in San
No.
Jose just recently. Remember at the Travel Authority? The guy went in and killed a few folks and everything at the rail yard. Remember that?
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Mhm.
Right. So
That's right.
Sam,
It's hard to remember where these things happen.
right.
I'm not, yeah. Go ahead. Go
So
ahead.
Sam Licardo unveiled a new initiative, and he is proposing a new gun safety measure that would require gun owners to pay an annual fee for owning a gun, and that money will cover the cost of dealing with gun violence in the city. So now it's basically a fee for owning a gun in San Jose, and the money will be put towards the cost of gun violence in the city.
All right. Come collect. Come collect that money.
It says all
Tell
registered
him
gun
personally, come collect it.
right, come collect. All registered gun owners in
Come
San
get it.
Jose would have to either provide proof of insurance coverage for firearm related incidents or pay an annual fee that would go towards paying for care for victims of gun violence. So basically, everybody that owns a gun has to foot a bill for anybody that gets shot from a gun.
Or what? Or they're gonna send people with guns to your house, make you pay, or to take you and put you in a cage because you didn't pay the fucking pet fee.
He said, now this is what he said.
Fucking.
Here,
Well, this is the thing though. All right, go. Yeah. Tell me what he said real quick, and then
Right.
I got something to
He
say after that.
said, if we cannot stop the horrors of gun violence in our cities, at least we're going to have the public stop paying for it. The Second Amendment protects the right of Americans
Hmm.
to own guns, but does not require that every other taxpayer pay for that right. Requiring gun users to pay fees will help fund critical emergency medical and police response and reduce our taxpayers' burden.
So, first of all, it's bullshit. Secondly, this is something that I've recently come to, and I'm sure I'm not the first one who said it. But recently, like an observation that I've made, or like a solution that I've come to when talking to people, when they propose a law, when they propose some sort of law, some sort of, like, oh, we can do this as a solution, especially when it comes to gun grabbing. I want to ask, are you willing to personally enforce that law? Like, would you personally enforce that law? And if the answer is no, which it usually is, because right, we have people for that. Okay, so you won't enforce that law yourself, but you want to put someone else in harm's way in order to enforce that law. Like, if you won't do it personally, then you don't believe that heavily in this. You
Right.
clearly don't believe that much
Right.
that it should be done if you won't
Right.
do it personally. And you're going to send somebody else, put them in danger, put someone's son or someone's daughter in danger in order to enforce this law. It's bullshit.
Right.
You don't believe this.
Now, here's some other things that it's going to introduce, that the bill introduces. Some of the things it includes are mandatory video or audio recordings of gun and ammunition purchases, and the display of suicide prevention materials at places where firearms are sold. But the
So I
idea of
think that's actually
mandatory
a good
video and
idea.
audio, no, no,
Yeah, that's
not
stupid.
video and audio, because think
Yeah,
about
that's
it,
nobody's fucking business. That's
right?
nobody's business.
I mean, think about it. That
Yeah,
that that makes. I mean, with all the hacking that goes on these days, man, that's like
yeah,
putting on
that's
display.
not.
It's bad enough they could hack and get gun registration information, but to just be able to get a video
Yeah.
and get facial and audio information where people are saying their names, et cetera, et cetera. Man, I don't know.
Hmm?
It just opens up a door for
I
so
wouldn't even
much
be
more
worried about
bullshit.
that. It's just nobody's business. I'm not even worried about that. It's just nobody's business what you're doing, what you're buying. Like, you don't do that for anything else, right? Why are you doing that for ammunition? That's stupid. But the suicide prevention information, I do think that's a good idea. Obviously, making a law of it is not something I would want, but like if a gun store wanted to do that, I think that's a pretty smart thing to do. I think that could be helpful to put out, information about, hey, if you're thinking about, doing some shit, here's some information for you.
Well,
To be,
oh, say that again.
so I was saying, like, I think that's a good thing to do. That's all I'm saying. To put that stuff out.
Now, meanwhile, in Missouri, the governor of Missouri is putting
Sure.
is trying to put it through legislation that pretty much um, says that if Missouri can ignore federal gun regulation as it pertains to registration, background checks, ownership, carrying, etc., that Missouri is going to ignore federal regulations. It's okay, and it's like they're basically going to become a Second Amendment. What's the word I'm looking for?
Sanctuary
Sanctuary.
state.
The entire state.
Sanctuary.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're going to become a Second
Fuck
Amendment
yeah.
sanctuary state.
Based. Hell yeah.
So it's
Hell
like
yeah.
it's like
Wait, you said Missouri, right? Like, which has St. Louis in it, which is like one of the most one of the most gun, killy states. Well, or cities. I guess St. Louis is one of the most
there's a high
killy
crime. Just say
cities
high
out
crime.
there.
It's
No,
it's
I'm
it's
talking
not
about
like a
murder though,
Detroit.
specifically like gun murders.
It's not like a Detroit or Chicago necessarily. Maybe close to
No, but it's
Detroit,
up there. It's one of those. It's in the top five. It's up there with Chicago and Detroit. Like
right?
it's up there.
But you know what?
Yeah.
You know what Detroit has done that is going to address that. and it's kind
What's
of
that?
like it's not it's just kind of like it will inadvertently address that. They're opening up. They've just opened up a new manufacturing plant for Jeep Wranglers, like a full blown
Oh
a billion
shit!
dollar factory. They're putting 5,000 people to work. We're getting cars made in fucking
Damn!
Detroit again. Big
Oh,
manufacturing
bringing back
plant,
the Motor City.
right? So
Fuck yeah!
that should take some of the crime off the streets because you'll actually have people getting paid
Sure.
money, and you
But
know, and
it's putting money back in circulation in Detroit, which is obviously what it would need.
right, especially at a time right now where inflation. I mean, if you've seen the inflation indexes and where they're at right now,
Yeah,
we're at almost a 20-year high with inflation because of this past year and a half. It's getting nasty, and they're expecting it to go even higher. While while on the flip side, the president of Bank America is going, "Oh well, Americans don't need more spending money. Our accounts show, our bank client accounts show that most people still have a lot of money in their bank accounts." I'm like, yeah, because fucking people are holding on to their money, and it's too expensive to buy shit anymore. But he's like, oh, unemployment's going to be
right.
down. It's going to be down so drastically by the end of this year, and inflation
Oh,
is going to start balancing
speaking
out.
of,
And then it's like, really?
no, because we're about to spend another what was it, $6 trillion on infrastructure?
Right.
Oh, I think there's some problems with that. But the thing that's been pissing me off super pissing me off lately is both Biden's Twitter account and Kamala's Twitter account, because I know they're not running them themselves, so their Twitter accounts keep putting out like, oh, we've had historic job growth, right? We've created so many more jobs than any other president in history, which is technically true, but only because they're reopening the economy finally.
Right. But
Like that has nothing to do with you. It has nothing to do with your efforts. It has everything to do with the governors opening their ship back up because because Trump's gone, so it's safe to open up again. Like
well,
it's pissed me off so much because it's such a blatant like misdirection. Like it's such a blatant fucking lie, basically. I mean, it's not an
right.
outright lie because those numbers are real. It's just like you know what you're doing, though. Like you know this is dishonest. There's no way you don't. I'm a fucking idiot, and I know this. There's no way
Well,
you don't
yeah,
know this. Like,
but think about it like this. They always do this for good or for bad. So, for instance, Obama walked into a shit show with the economy after Bush, and he walked into a shit show where
it's still shit.
he had
Yeah,
to do the big bailout and shit, right? Like when they get handed these things, what Bush came into office after Clinton, right? And the economy,
yeah, yeah.
I mean, Clinton had reached what they said was a balanced budget, and Bush took credit for
Well, yeah,
the
yeah.
great
It's
economy
yeah,
under
yeah,
his
yeah.
leadership when he took over from Clinton. Just like
Of course,
but
yeah. They all do that. Yeah, yeah,
Obama got blamed for the bullshit that was left behind by Bush.
yeah.
So
Well,
so of course
uh,
Biden and Kamala are going to take credit for this
um,
job thing because the country's opening up. But here's
yeah.
the important thing:
It was yes and no on that though.
just because
Hmm.
there's a big difference between jobs created or jobs opening up and people actually getting employed, right? I don't want to hear that
Hmm.
there's a lot of jobs out there. What I want to hear is how many people are going back to work. Are the unemployment numbers
Right.
going down? That's
Yeah.
what's important. You can have 1,000 jobs, but if only 50 people are taking jobs, well, that doesn't
Yeah.
really mean dick, right?
Which is pretty much what's happening. That's pretty much what's happening though, is that there's tons of open jobs, not as many people working them. Like everywhere it's desperate. I've been looking around. You go everywhere. I go to any restaurant I've been to in the past 2 months. Whenever they give you the bill, they give you like a little pamphlet inside that says, "Hey, we have a $250, job bonus, whatever. Like if you start like in a month later, you get an extra $250 or $500 or $1,000 sometimes. Like it just depends on the restaurant, whatever. If it's a chain or whatever, they can pay you more. But it's like It's fucking ridiculous. Like, they're desperate to get people to work.
Sure, but
And
what would be the way to
yeah, so
do it as
what I'm
opposed
saying
to
is like,
that?
no, I'm saying those businesses are doing it right. All right, but that's a free market action. Not there
Sure,
is a free market. That
sure,
is a free market action. That they're all doing it, and
right.
they're some are offering more than others. Why are they offering more than others? So like, you'll go work for them instead of the competition or other guys.
Right, but the problem with that is, for a lot of people out there, it goes back to that idea that they've been getting paid a really nice hourly
Making more
wage on
anyway, even with the
unemployment,
extra
right?
money.
Right.
Yeah.
But that so say for
Oh hell
instance
yeah.
they offer you $500. You've got to work there for a certain period of time before you get that money, and a lot of people are saying, well, you're going to give me $500 in after 90 days of working with you, but my hourly wage is not going to increase. And if you spread that $500 over the 30 days, the 90 days that I worked, it doesn't
Yeah.
come out to that much more of an hourly wage. My hourly wage is still going to be shit. Maybe it's not, right, necessarily shit, but it's going to be lower than what they were making. So a lot of, it's still, there's still pressure on a lot of companies to up their wages, though there are some companies that have done that and are seeing some severe financial difficulties because their labor costs are up, having to address that
Yeah.
higher wage. It's a very it's a very tentative place right now for businesses
Yeah.
and employees to try and find a middle ground where everybody's comfortable going back to work. I mean, those bonuses are great. Think about it like this. I mean, you're a lot of those jobs are gonna you're gonna catch the cash in hand person that wants to come in, just get some, get the quick bucks, the incentive, and the question becomes,
Well,
are they an ethical
hang
quality
on.
employee versus somebody who's there just for the hourly wage?
Right. I mean, that's why they make you wait a month or 90 days or whatever it is before you get that bonus, right? They don't
Right,
just give it to you as soon as you
right,
come in on your first day, right? That's why they do that. They make you like, all right, we're gonna see how you actually work for the next month or 2 months or 3 months, whatever it is,
right.
and then we'll give you the extra money, or they'll give it like, every month you get an extra $250, like until you get up to a
Right.
thousand or whatever it is.
I mean, they,
Here's a little bit of your check.
I mean, they've got, they have to really look, they've still got, I don't know, there's still going to be a lot of play in that going on over the next few months as to how businesses truly react, and what the bottom line incentive becomes for the standard to get people coming back to work. And I really think it's going to be a push for more hourly wage from the companies to try and find some wage that they can pay and still remain profitable, because that's what it's going to come down to for the, I'm going to say the smart worker. When I say smart, I mean those people that can do the math and say, you know what, this is still not going to be a livable wage for me,
Yeah.
and I need more. And then they'll go look for jobs where they can get more. And just like you've seen in places where companies are pissed off at Amazon because Amazon can pay that kind of money, and they can't. So Amazon keeps getting the
Right.
employees that they need. It's it's tricky. It's tough. I do love the fact that people are trying to do incentives and get people on board, but I don't know
No,
how
it's
the
a good idea.
longevity of that is going to get them the kind of employees they want, or they're going to experience some really high turnover rates with that,
Well, I
which
think, yeah,
costs a lot
I
of
think
money
they
too.
are. And I think they are going to be doing a high turnover rate because, and I can give you an example. Um, I recently went to Dave and Buster's over in Orlando, and
Ed agrees with killing grandma
everybody
by
there
going
was
home.
new. Yeah, I know. Sorry, Grandma. But everybody there, though, I guess I shouldn't say everybody, but it seemed like everyone was brand new. Maybe except for like one or two managers who might have been there before, because we sat down. We played whatever games, and then we sat down at a table, and we were they have a waiter, waiter, waitress, whatever, come over and had our order taken. That was just fine, and then we're playing a little trivia game, and then suddenly it's like half an hour later, and we don't see anything. Like there's nothing there. It wasn't like too packed either. It was like half an hour later. There's nothing there. We're like, what's going on? And then three different times, uh, someone was gonna drop food off, and they went to our table, but it wasn't our stuff. And so we're like, oh no, that's not any of ours. Like that's not our stuff.
Right.
And so they had they were trying to memorize what table, like the table numbers or whatever.
Exactly.
So like one of the supervisors or managers or whatever would come over and be like, oh, what table are you supposed to be? And he'd say the number and he'd be like, oh, over there. So like obviously a brand new person, right?
Right.
Which is fine. But
Well, see, that's
um
a part of me is
yeah,
like,
so and that was like everybody, the bartenders,
see now,
everyone was new.
it's funny that I've seen similar stuff going on, and I thought to myself, I said, this would be a great time for me to go get a job in a restaurant, because I'm a professional service trainer. I mean, I've done it for many years, training people on service. I can come in your restaurant and I can learn your shit in a week, and then I can train people. If you pay me the right number, I can have people trained in just in 2 or 3 days to do their job and everything. I'll learn all of your systems. I'll
Right.
figure it all out, got it all down, and I'll train people. You want to pay me 60, 70 grand a year, and I'll make sure that you have good employees, and I'll give you less than 20% turnover rate on the employees too.
Yeah.
But
Pretty good for a restaurant.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it really is. I mean, and I can make those
Yeah.
kind of guarantees because I know how to weed the fucking employees out in the training process.
Yeah.
No, you're not going to cut it at this job. Now, if you want to go into a different position, maybe you should wash dishes, or maybe you should be a line cook, line runner, or something. But you don't need to be out here on the floor doing this. Yeah, there's a hostess position available. Put on a skirt. It's,
Right. Yeah.
but continuing with our theme of idiots, there's a few idiots out there right now, and this is going to speak to your favorite topic, racism. Um,
Ooh.
yeah, there's a
Love me some
writer.
racism.
There's a writer, and of all rags, it's a writer for the Guardian. His name
Oh
is
God, yeah, the Guardian.
his name is Raj Patel, and he is now
Makes sense.
putting it out there, that apple pie. You like apple pie, John? I mean, it's American.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
It's American, right? Well, guess what? Apple
It's definitely
pie.
American for sure.
Apple pie is racist.
Okay, hang on. Let me guess how. Let me guess how.
Hmm.
Um. Okay, so obviously slaves weren't allowed to use apples, right? That's how soul food got created, right? 'Cause it's all like leftover animal parts and stuff. That's what soul food is. Typically, pig's feet or, whatever. Anyway, um, so well, yeah, slaves weren't allowed to use apples, so they couldn't have made pies. Once they were freed, maybe they were still too poor to buy apples. All right, hang on. I'm gonna get this. I'm gonna get this. I'm usually pretty good at this game.
You're too far into the future. You got to go back.
Too far back.
You got to go
Oh,
back
further.
further. You got to go back
Poor
to the.
pies were invented.
You got to go back to the colonization of the country, because the apples were
Oh,
brought over
huh.
from Europe, right? And one of the people that are implicated in this is John Chapman. Are you familiar with who John Chapman is?
Not at the top.
You might know him by his better moniker, also known as Johnny Appleseed.
Oh, okay, yeah. I'm
Right.
familiar with Johnny Appleseed. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So here's the assertion. It says apples traveled to the Western Hemisphere with Spanish colonists in the 1500s in what used to be called the Columbian Exchange, but is now better understood as a vast and ongoing genocide of indigenous people. He said the apple pie is just a variant of an English pumpkin recipe, but he said English colonizers had used apple trees as markers
Wait.
as markers of civilization, and John Chapman took these markers of colonized property to the frontiers of U.S. expansion, where his trees stood as symbols that indigenous communities had been extirpated from that area. So they were planting apple trees as markers to show that there were no more indigenous people to worry about behind those apple tree
Hang on.
borders.
Apple tree. Okay, so I'm not really sure. I wasn't listening to the last part you said because I was looking something up. Pumpkins are a North American, like they're native to North America. So how was their English pumpkin recipes
He said that
when pumpkins are?
I don't know. He said the cooking process of the apple pie dessert. He said he claimed the cooking process is a variant on an English pumpkin recipe. So I don't know. I don't
Okay,
know.
but like that would have come before the pumpkin would have been brought to England.
But
Is
you're
my
saying
point.
there were no pumpkins in Europe anywhere?
At, not before they started colonizing the U.S.
So
or started
so you're
colonizing
saying
the world.
pumpkins are native to America and then they got taken over
Right.
to England?
Well,
Who
native to Mexico is where the oldest ones were found, but it's native to North America
North America, gotcha.
in general.
So,
Yeah.
but that could that you know there was all sorts of stuff going on in North America before we colonized America itself. You know, this country. So that,
Kind of,
I mean,
I mean,
if
kind
you
of. Just hang on, because like the Vikings, I guess, for lack of a better word, found Greenland and Newfoundland, which is why it's called Newfoundland, right? Newfoundland. They found that probably like 100 or so years before Columbus, but Columbus found the Caribbean, right? He didn't necessarily find the continent itself. The first known like European settlement on the actual continent was North Carolina. Well, I think it was Raleigh. Yeah, Raleigh, North Carolina was like the first kind of fully functional, right? The one that like survived. Not necessarily the first one, but the first one that like prospered and survived. Um, because yeah, Sir Walter Raleigh started it as like a base for privateers and stuff like that, like privateers, merchants, whatever, to go over there.
well,
So I guess that's about when pumpkins might have been, but I doubt it. I doubt
I
there were
mean,
like wild
south.
pumpkins and
I mean, I'm like
like
you know when you're talking
I
Mexico
don't know.
and
Either
all of
way,
that. Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
but anyway, that's his claim, and that
exactly.
Johnny.
We're getting in the weeds about
Right.
like
Yes, you
these
are.
pumpkins when
You're
from.
focused on pumpkins for some reason. Um, but no, they're
I am
saying that.
focused on pumpkin. Look, I think he's wrong about that,
Well,
and I don't like when people are
pumpkin.
wrong.
Why don't you? What you should look at is when the first pumpkins were used in Europe. That would answer your question, not where pumpkins were discovered
That's
first.
fair. That's probably
All right.
fair. I should probably look that up. 'Cause I might even be being
But the
unfair to this guy.
but the real assertion is that apple trees were being used as boundary markers to show that indigenous communities had been exterminated or had been removed from behind those lines. And as we colonized westward, apple trees,
Mm,
that's the claim he was making, that that's what they were being used at, because they did the same thing
sounds pretty dubious.
over in Europe. Yeah. The English colonizers used them as markers of civilization. So but
That sounds pretty dubious because when you plant apple trees, right? You plant them in an orchard. You're like, oh, here's my orchard because I'm an apple farmer, right? Or whatever, a farmer, right? You have your crops, and then you have an apple.
John, you're just thinking too much. You're thinking too hard,
Yeah, you're right.
overthinking
I'm
it.
not just accepting. Let me
Just accept Johnny Appleseed was a
bend the
racist,
knee,
and
and
they were killing indigenous
yeah.
people. Oh, and
But
by the way, the pie crust, not uniquely American either. Fuck you.
I don't give a fuck.
Because
Like,
and it's like he goes into all this shit about when sugar cane came to this country and this, that, whatever.
What from fucking Puerto Rico and like the Caribbean island? That's usually where sugarcane is.
It was brought by Jesuits to the U.S. in 1751.
From where?
I don't know, where did Jesuits come from?
Jesuits are a Catholic like organization.
I don't know.
So Rome?
But it says
That's
sugar
not
cane showed up in this country in the U.S. in 1751. But guess what? It wasn't the U.S. at the time, so that's kind of, so just saying. But anyway, so apple pie, racist. Just keep that in mind. Um, then there are,
Actually, okay, fair enough, fair enough. Hang on, it's native to Asia,
yeah.
so fair enough.
But we had other ways of getting
European
sugar, I
introduced
think.
I think it was just like the climate, the tropical climate is very good for sugarcane growth. But yeah, apparently it originally came from Asia, was introduced to Europe during the Crusades,
Um, there are
according
also
to the old.
the old lag. Um,
The old Google is what I said, but yeah.
there are also right now there are idiots that are going after big tobacco because big tobacco has specifically preyed upon the black community for decades with their tobacco products. And I'm like,
How
I
dare
was
you? How dare you make things we like? How dare you? You targeted us
right. I'm
because you
like,
made things we like so we would buy them.
why did you
Like,
make them damn
obvious.
cools? Why'd you make them Newports?
I know,
Right. But now
right?
here's the funny thing.
Insane.
You know, I grew up in a time where cigarette commercials were still a thing. And I
Yeah,
used to watch Virginia Slim commercials. Guess who they were fucking targeting? Women.
women.
I used to
Yeah,
watch the
that's who
Marlboro
smokes them. That's who
commercials.
smokes them.
Guess who the Marlboro commercials were targeting?
Kids.
Fucking cowboys and countries, people in the country,
I
white
know.
folks.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
who
Marlboro,
was
Marlboro
Camel's
are cowboy killers.
right,
Marlboro.
right,
Yeah, the cowboy killers is what they're called. The
right,
Marlboro Reds.
right,
Yeah,
cowboy killers. And just
that's
like
their nickname. Yeah, cowboy killers.
Joe Camel was targeting kids, which I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
Joe Camel was targeting, you know, potentially targeting
That's
the
probably
gay
fair to say,
community.
by the way.
I think Joe Camel was more 'cause- right. If you think about what Joe Camel
Yeah,
looked like in the beginning, he looked like a big penis on his face, um, with a nice set of testicles underneath.
it's true.
Nephilim says, "Good to see you tonight, Nephilim." He says, "Grape soda lobbyists are up next." Uh,
Apparently,
Marie
yeah.
May Begley
And
says,
the watermelon lobby is. Go
she said, "Just say you grew up when you
ahead.
could smoke in the grocery." Yeah, I grew up in a time where you could smoke anywhere. It didn't
You
matter. You
probably
could smoke
did.
fucking
I
anywhere,
bet you did.
right? Yeah.
So I know I'm not as old as that, but I do remember when restaurants would ask you smoking or non-smoking when you go in. Right? You say, "Oh, got two people. Okay, smoking or non-smoking."
Right.
I remember that
Right.
being a thing. Yeah,
That
I
used
still
to
remember that. In fact, when I went
airlines.
to
Airlines did the same thing.
oh, I have flown so many times when I was a smoker that I wish they did do that still because that is and I only took like 2.5 hour flights, but you know how it is. Like if you're deprived of nicotine for like 2 hours, right? Like it gets kind of bad after about an hour. You're like, all right, I'm ready for another cigarette, but I can wait like 10 minutes or something if I need to. Once it hits like that 2 hour mark, you're kind of like, all right, like that's enough of this. Let's get some nicotine. Let's smoke a cigarette. Like, come on.
Right.
Now it's 2.5 hours. You've landed. It takes 20 minutes to taxi, and you're like, all right, we landed. Cool. I can get a cigarette. Then you're taxiing, and you're like, oh my god, this is fucking ridiculous. Takes you 20 minutes, especially at O'Hare Airport. Takes
Right.
you like 20 minutes to taxi. And then you got to get out of the plane. That takes 10 minutes. And you got to get,
And you gotta,
like, down
and
the
now they
baggage
don't have a
claim. And you're
smoking
just like,
lounge
fuck.
anymore, right? So you got to get all
No.
the fucking way out of the airport.
Right.
And some
And I'm
airports you
sitting
got
there
to get
waiting for
off
the
the
Uber.
property.
Just,
Some
oh my
airports you actually have to
god.
get the
Oh,
fuck off
man.
the property before you can smoke. You can't even smoke walking out to the fucking parking lot.
See, I haven't experienced that. Luckily.
Yeah,
Oh my god.
there are some places
Yeah,
that have
that
gotten
was
that fucking
horrible.
hardcore. Um, but now
Because like
they
that's when you're the most pissed off when you're trying to leave,
right.
and then also you haven't smoked for like 3 hours now, and you're like ready to kill somebody. on the way out.
Just like hotels. And when I was growing up, we traveled a couple of times, stayed at hotels. They didn't ask you if you wanted a smoking or non-smoking room because guess what was a standard part of the furniture and the decor in a fucking hotel room? There was always an
Ashtrays.
ashtray in
Yeah,
there,
at least
along
one,
with
if not
glasses
two.
and
Yeah.
an ice bucket or whatever the fuck. There were always
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
ashtrays in there. Yeah, it was crazy. But now they're throwing Dave Chappelle
I
up.
stayed.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, go, no, no, no. Go ahead, go ahead, because I'm wasting time. So go ahead.
They're throwing Dave Chappelle up in this because of his experience with cigarettes, and they're saying it's emblematic of how someone can get caught in it. He said that when he was 14 years of age, there was a cigarette promotion going on, and that's where he got his first pack of cigarettes. But once
Was where?
I don't know where he was at. It's just when he was 14 years old, cigarette company was doing promotions
Hmm.
because years ago, even up until, I don't know, 20 plus years ago, I was in Stone Mountain, Georgia. When new cigarettes would come out, they'd send out girls like the Red Bull girls, right? They would send out
Hmm.
people with duffel bags full of promo cigarettes, and they would give out packs of cigarettes. I remember when I was in Stone Mountain, I was working at a attendant bar, and they came in, and it was a cigarette called Horizon, and it was a chocolate infused cigarette, so when you smoked it, it had kind of a chocolate flavor to it. They weren't horrible, it was just an
Okay,
essence
because
of chocolate.
that can go badly.
It could,
Yeah, that can go
right?
badly if they
I,
don't do it right. Yeah.
they never caught on, but it was funny. I
Hmm.
want to say they came in like two or three times over the course of a month, and I wound up getting like, I don't know, because they just wanted to get rid of them, and they gave me like
Yeah.
cartons of these cigarettes. And I'm like, fucking free cigarettes, gotta love it, right? So I just took them home and stuck them in my fucking freezer. But yeah, so Big Tobacco supports racism, and they're colonizers as well. But the worst idiot of all is a peer reviewed. This is a peer reviewed
Yes.
healthcare journal has published this that
Yep.
says whiteness is a parasitic like condition. Have you heard this? It says
I actually am familiar with this. Yeah, I have read this, and it is fucking vile.
It said here's the assertion. It says whiteness is a condition one first acquires and then one has a malignant parasitic like condition to which white people have a particular susceptibility. Parasitic whiteness renders its host's appetites voracious, insatiable, and perverse. These deformed appetites particularly target non-white peoples. Once established, these appetites are nearly impossible to eliminate. They argue that white people possess an entitled dominion that enables the host to wield power without limit, force without restriction, and violence without mercy, and increases one's desire to terrorize. And it's stated that any infant
Hmm.
is vulnerable to the parasite of whiteness. Holy fuck!
Yeah,
What the fuck?
dude. Yeah. So, in a completely unrelated note, I would like to advise everyone to purchase ammunition. Um, Make sure you do that. Make sure you purchase some ammunition. That way, just in case something happens, you can defend yourself and your family. Now back to the regularly scheduled event, which that had nothing to do with Fred whatsoever. Um, this is the same thing to bring up if we're going to do the Nazi comparison. Well, that's propaganda that was used against Jews, right? Same thing with if you want to go to this country, guess what? What is phrenology, right? Same thing was used against black people to be like, oh, well, they're prone to crime and they're prone to, violence and they have low IQs and all this stuff. Like, it's the same thing. It's just not considered racist. It's against white people.
Would you
So,
would you like to
fuck
hear
this.
Would you like to hear what the cure is, John? There is treatment.
Bullets, I imagine.
Effective treatment consists of a combination of psychic and social historical interventions. Such interventions can
Wait, psychic or
psychic as in psychological.
or
Yeah, yeah.
psychological psych, not
In
psychic,
medical,
right?
right? They're not talking psychic. They're talking
Yeah,
psychological
yeah,
when they say
okay.
psychic.
Good. 'Cause I was
Uh,
gonna say that's a little. What are they
right,
fucking
right,
do my astrology or do my star charts and
right.
shit? Like, what are they? You know?
Such interventions can reasonably aim only to reshape whiteness's infiltrated appetites, to reduce their intensity, redistribute their aims, and occasionally turn those aims toward the work of reparation. But
Like,
he says there is not yet a permanent cure for whiteness.
mhm.
Um,
Of course not. There can't be. So I want to stress too, though, that this is not just like some random Twitter user. This is not just some like random journalist at the Huffington Post or the Hill or something like that. This is a legitimate scientific journal. Like this was peer reviewed, was it not, Robert?
yes, yes, it's been peer
Peer
reviewed.
reviewed, right? Which means that it is an acceptable, like, not a study, but it's an acceptable article of like science. This is now science. When we say follow the science, this is what they're talking about.
And
When they say
and
follow science, this is now science.
here's one for you to really chew on. He this doctor also claimed that whiteness easily infiltrates even groups founded on the protection of individuals on democratic principles. So people who believe in democratic or
Well, yeah, that makes
principles,
sense because democracy
democracy,
is tyranny. Yep.
right. Now, here's the problem. The biggest problem with this, he's a psychoanalyst and he's white. I would have
Yeah, of
expected this.
course he is.
I could have almost expected, but he is white himself.
Why would
So
you?
I'm assuming he's afflicted with
Why would that
whiteness.
surprise you though? Why would that surprise you though? That someone who is white would say something like that. I mean, that's not surprising at all.
No, I guess it's not, but it's fucking crazy, is what it is. And
It is. It's insane.
these are the mechanisms by which your children will be indoctrinated in schools. They'll be taught
Not in Florida. Boom.
right. They'll be taught
Not
critical
in Florida.
race theory. They'll be taught all of these things, and these are the mechanisms by which they do it because they're creating a condition,
Hmm?
and
No,
and
so
it's fucking absurd.
to explain like the critical race theory, like the actual like philosophy of it, um, whiteness doesn't necessarily mean white person, right? It's not talking about like the skin color. It's talking
Right.
about an attitude.
Right.
Right? It's talking about
Anybody could be
a
afflicted with
proclivity, though.
right. Anybody could be
Right,
afflicted
yeah,
with
that's why.
whiteness.
Yeah, that's why there's
But
black white supremacists, there's Hispanic white
right,
supremacists,
right,
there's Asian white supremacists,
right.
because like they are afflicted with whiteness, even though they are not white themselves. So that
But
is kind of where they're coming from.
we are more
But it is
prone to it.
absolutely fucking vile. It is despicable that they would be doing something like that. They would be saying these kind of things. Like it's absolutely insane. If it was said about, and so of course we're going to go back to the hypocrisy, right? That obviously doesn't matter. As I said many times before, said it many times before. Doesn't matter. But hypocrisy in that if it was said about any other group, which it has been, these exact same things have been said. It's still like if it was said about anybody else, it would not be accepted. It
Right?
would be absolutely condemned. But because it's white people, it's fine.
Right. And what's interesting is, you made reference, you made reference to, the Nazis. I mean, this is the same kind of
So it's been
propaganda
used before. It's the
that fueled,
exact same thing. Same thing with
right?
black people. Yeah,
But
yeah.
you can't say something like you can't talk about Jewishness, right? Like, you
Yeah.
You can't
Oh
talk.
my God, no! You
You
can get
can't
kicked
call
off.
that a condition, right?
Right.
You
You
can't
can't be
call
like, oh, there's
blackness a
Jewishness
condition,
over here.
right?
Oh,
I mean,
certainly not. Yeah.
wouldn't blackness, could you call blackness a condition because that infiltrates lots of races. There are
But that's
lots
the
of
thing,
people who
is it
attempt.
has been. It has been. Blackness was a thing,
A peer
but it wasn't
reviewed
called
thing?
that,
Was it
right?
a peer reviewed paper?
Yes. Yes. I believe it was called phrenology. Was the science of like. Let me make sure I'm right
Well,
about that.
phrenology is the
But
study of the
the
skull.
the the, the skull, yeah. So it was all like you know something about like their brain was brains, so they weren't smart, even though that's how it
Right,
was all bad science, right? Or not
right,
bad science, it was wrong,
right.
right? But so it was all about like head shapes and stuff like that, determining your IQ
Sure.
and shit like that. Um, but like that is like if you put that out now, like even now, like you mentioned that, and it's like, oh, that's just racist bullshit from the past. Okay, well, what about the racist bullshit that's happening now? Like that is the same exact thing, right? It's saying these people have a proclivity for this, like that. That's saying a race of people tends to do this. If that's racist for one, it's racist for the other. And I know because critical race theory, you can't be racist to white people, right? You can be impolite, you can be prejudiced, but you can't be racist to them because,
You're
whatever.
fucking bullshit.
What is it? Power, yeah, power plus privilege or whatever. Power plus prejudice equals racism, right? And they don't have power; they just have prejudice. It's a fucking bullshit system, right? It's just a mental gymnastics. Is all it is.
Right.
But it's still like no, it's total fucking bullshit.
But it's the direction that these markers can point us and lead people as we move forward that is really fucking scary. I mean, because it's it's not scary to me as you know a white person, right? As a Caucasian or an appearing Caucasian, because I mean, well, with my tan, I can be confused for Hispanic. I get people who assume that I speak Spanish because of my dark complexion, but
Really?
it's yeah. I actually have that,
I would
especially.
never confuse you. I knew you were a white boy as soon as I laid eyes on you. I could tell right
Yeah,
away you're a white boy.
but
You're just tan.
nobody
Like
would
you're
but nobody would know I have Native American, right? There's not going to be an assumption that I have Native
right.
American heritage either. But when it's all said and done, it's what it's going to the divisiveness that this fuels the fire, right? This is just one more thing that fuels the fire to create more divisiveness, and I wonder when will they call this a pandemic eventually? Will they will they lock us all down till we so that whiteness doesn't spread? Will will we have to find some way like will we have forced mental
I don't know
health
about all that, but
treatments for
that
whiteness?
that I can see that I can see happening. I can see the education system being used in that kind of way. I don't think it would be like the whole it's not like the next COVID, right? It's just not transmissible, you know, uh, the same way. Um, but yeah, I mean, I can definitely see people being like, oh, in school, like, oh, he's, he's, showing attributes of whiteness. Like, we need to fix this, right? That's what happened in the '90s and the early 2000s with like ADD and ADHD, right? And it affected mostly boys, right? It affected what's it called? What's the word I'm looking for, Robert? It was
Sorry, I was
disproportionately boys.
just gotcha.
It was disproportionately boys that were affected with ADD and ADHD. And meanwhile, the symptoms are just boys, right? They're just being boys,
Right,
right? They're rambunctious, they're
right.
unfocused, right? They want to get up and move around. They don't want to sit at a desk and, write stuff down for 8 hours a day,
Yeah, I
right? They
guess.
want to get up, they want
Right.
to play, they want to interact with each other, right? They're being boys.
Well,
but
having
that
raised
was
multiple
considered
girls,
a mental illness.
having raised multiple girls is the same thing. All children of that age are that way.
No, I'm sure it is, but of course, yeah, they are. Of course, they are. But with boys, I don't know. I guess because girls mature faster than boys, that I think that they can be able to sit down and not move around, not fidget better than boys can. Because girls do mature faster. That is an absolute fact.
Right.
So I mean, like I said, but then if you look at the numbers though, ADD and ADHD affected boys way more. There's way more boys that were
Sure.
ADD or ADHD, myself included. I was diagnosed with ADHD
But
when I was in, I think, second grade.
there have been
But
assertions.
just because I wanted to get up and I wanted to play, I didn't sit there.
Well, there have been
Yeah,
assertions by some that and some people would call it conspiracy theories or whatever, but that was also a mechanic of feminism as well. The feminist movement
yeah,
tied it was tied
right.
into
Because
that.
they're treating boys like imperfect girls. Yeah,
Right. To
like
to
improper girls or whatever,
right.
or broken girls. Yeah.
Right. Um, but
And it's just not the case. They're just different. That's
right.
it. It's fine. They're just different.
But now on the flip side of the
No
coin,
problem with it.
right? On the flip side of the coin,
Yeah.
something like this, having been peer reviewed and published as a psychological, disorder, um, boy, that just leaves it wide open for any of these white kids or white guys, white people that go in and do a mass shooting to just come in and go, "Yeah, I'm fucking crazy. I'm afflicted with whiteness. I plead innocent on the
Yeah.
grounds of mental instability because I was brainwashed with whiteness. So, it's like I can't be held responsible for my actions because of whiteness. And I need help. It's
Yeah.
I don't know. Can you make that argument? Uh, I see Quest Fanning in the house has shown up as Robbie the Arab. Nice. Thank you.
Quest. What's up, bro?
Uh,
Oh, by the way, Quest. He'll know what this means. Quest. That dude never DM'd me. So real quick, as a quick aside. I was I was playing Twitter, arguing with people as I normally do, and there's this neocon that's been going around libertarian and anarchist circles trying to like stir shit up. And so I responded to one of the things that he said, and we went back and forth a couple of times. And then he's like, "Oh, debate me, bro!" Like, as in to come onto his YouTube channel and debate him. And I told him, I was like, "All right, well, DM me." And I haven't heard anything since. Like,
right.
I haven't heard anything at all. So
It's funny when they
yeah.
draw a line in the
Oh,
sand.
Ed got me. He said,
Oh, what?
and I'm like, all right, toe. He's
You were
my
using
toe. I'm going right over the line.
right,
What's up?
right. Oh, no. That wasn't that
That's
wasn't a
Grindr.
straight
Yeah,
line.
that's
Let me
true.
let me do a better line. That wasn't a straight line you stepped over. Let me do another one.
Yeah,
Uh, nice. You were using Twitter
right.
as Grindr, John. Quest says Margaret Sanger was
Grindr.
big on phrenology and
He's
eugenics. It says Margaret Sanger was big on phrenology and eugenics. That's why she put Planned Parenthood in black neighborhoods. Terrible that so many
That's
would-be young black
that's true.
families fell into her trap.
No, he's right. He's 100% right about that. That is true. That's why there's so many Planned Parenthoods in predominantly black areas.
Well,
I mean, so hang on, because there is an argument to be made about poor areas,
oh yeah, poor
right? They put
areas,
it in
right?
poor areas because richer people don't tend to have abortions, right? Because they
Well,
can deal
see,
with the
well,
whatever.
see
But
that's the
at the
problem.
same time, though, they are specifically in predominantly black areas and not in predominantly poor white areas.
Well, the only problem I have there is that see the part with Planned Parenthood. When you say Planned Parenthood, the first thing most people think is abortion. And Planned
But I
Parenthood
know they
does
don't all do abortion. In
well.
fact,
No,
most
no,
of
no.
them don't. And I
Right.
understand that. Yeah,
The bulk of the work that they do isn't centered around abortion.
yeah.
It's about educating
No, I
people
know.
and
But
helping them prevent STDs,
right.
how to take
Mhm.
how to actually plan parenthood
Contraceptives.
when you're going to
Yeah.
be a parent, somebody that you can come and talk to and
No, I understand that.
get information
But
and
okay,
help.
right. Yes. Yes. Understood. Where else do you get an abortion though?
Well, I understand that, but that's the
Okay,
only
but so
problem
no,
I
no,
have with
that's my
Planned
point
Parenthood.
though.
That abort,
Right.
the fact that they will do abortions there is, gets them targeted to be shut down, and it's like, but they do so much more work outside of abortions
I
that is
understand they do,
beneficial.
and I
And
wouldn't have a problem with them. I would not have a problem with Planned Parenthood if they didn't do abortions at all. Right? So like just saying, oh, not all of them do it. Okay, well, great, but they do though, so it's still a problem, right? It's not like they're doing zero abortions.
no, I get that. I'm not
They'd
saying
be like
but I mean,
say,
the
yeah,
percentage of care that things that they do there, abortion is typically on the lower end of the scale, the minority of things that they do there. But the other thing is,
yeah. No, I get that.
I mean, here's the thing. I don't care what anybody says, and whether you're pro-life or pro-choice, understand this: if abortion is outlawed, they're still going to happen, and much like it used to be back
I
in the day,
love,
would
yeah,
women
yeah.
were dying because they didn't want to have that rape baby, the incest baby, or just they knew
I
they couldn't
understand
take
that.
care of it. They didn't want to
So
carry it to
a
term,
couple of
whatever. They
things,
were still happening, right? And
right?
people were
A
dying, and
couple of
one of the
things,
things that it
a
addresses is
couple
it
of things though.
saves lives. Go ahead.
So a couple of things with that. One is that's the same, and I'm not putting this argument on you at all, right? I'm not saying that you're saying this at all, or that you believe this, but the left will often use that exact argument. They'll be like, "Oh, well, if you outlaw abortion, then people are just gonna have back alley abortions. They're just gonna do it on the black market," and then at that point, you just say, "Okay, well, great. Now do guns," right? Same
Right.
thing with guns. Like you outlaw,
Right.
whatever guns, they're just gonna get them anyway, right? The people who want
Right.
them are gonna get them anyway,
Right.
regardless of the law. So fuck the law, anyways,
Sure.
right?
It's
Um,
it's like kids under
yeah.
21 don't get their hands on
And
alcohol.
secondly,
Right.
right, yeah,
Right.
please.
Let's
Like
pretend.
that's everyone knows. Most people, in fact, I will say, most people, I imagine, had alcohol before their 21st birthday.
Oh yeah, most people
I will
have.
bet you that a majority, in fact, a significant majority, I would say upwards of like 80%, maybe even more. But I would say a safe 80% of people were drinking before they were 21. Um, but my other point, though, uh, is that when you bring up like the rape baby or the incest baby, that is so very few of the
Yes, I
abortions that
agree. I
happen
agree.
that it's negligible. It's
I'm I'm
negligible. It might
I
not even
agree.
be a factor.
I'm just saying that those are some of
Yeah.
the different
So
reasons why women choose to get abortions, along with the fact that they don't want to
right,
have
but
the
I'm saying, but
baby,
again,
etc.
yeah,
I don't love the women that are going to have an abortion when they laid down and just got knocked up because they didn't take precautions. I mean, so it happens occasionally, accidentally, even with
yeah.
precautions being taken. I get it, and I'm not saying I'm not making an argument for either side. I'm just putting out the arguments that are
In fact,
there. But I do
in fact,
believe
I'll
that.
give you an example. I'll give you an example. I don't know her anymore, but an ex-girlfriend of mine, after we had broken up, had nothing to do with me. This is a few months after we had broken up, so it had nothing to do with me. But she got pregnant from another guy, um, and she ended up drinking Jägermeister until she miscarried. Right,
Right.
and that was with like she could have gotten an abortion,
Sure.
right?
And
But she
there,
got pregnant and drank
well, there are.
Jägermeister until she had a miscarriage. So it's like that could happen anyway,
Right. Well, there are
right?
natural
Like that
ways.
that even with it being, but even with it being legal, she could have done it.
Right.
But she instead chose. It was
Sure.
probably much cheaper, I'm sure, to buy a bottle of Jaeger than it is to get an abortion, right?
Well,
But the point is, even with it being legal, does not prevent people from doing it in other ways. So that's ridiculous to say, oh, if it's outlaw, people are just going to do it another way. Well, they do it another way anyway,
right.
even while it is legal.
Right. And when it's all said and done, I mean, there are natural ways that women can self abort. Like there are certain plants and things like
Mhm.
this They will allow for that. And my
I
biggest
didn't know
issue,
that. That's crazy. Okay, fair enough.
the biggest problem I have is that just because you want to outlaw abortion, okay, if you're a state and you say abortion is not legal in this state, that's great. But don't shut down Planned Parenthood. You need that. This is these places
Well, see, if
can
that's what
stop
they
those
did, if they
women.
didn't do,
If a woman gets pregnant and has somebody that she can go and talk to that can
yeah,
prevent her from going and getting a back alley abortion or doing something drastic, those places are relevant
yeah.
still, even if they're not allowed to do abortions. And but they're
So yeah, if
targeted
they're not allowed to do
wholeheartedly.
abortions, I do not have a problem. If they're allowed to do abortions, I do not have a problem with Planned Parenthood's existence. I've seen way less efficient ways of spending tax dollars than that. That is not on my list of like we need to cut that immediately, right?
Right. Well,
It's the
but
abortion part that I have a problem with.
right. Well,
But when it
and that's
comes
what I'm
to
saying. Just
when it comes to everything else, fine, I don't care. But
right.
not that I don't care, but like it's not on my list of priorities of things to cut. Like,
Right, but that's what I'm
you know
saying.
what I mean?
But they're disproportionately targeted. Like, if if you're going to get rid of abortion,
Because they're the only
you
ones doing it.
absolutely have to get rid of Planned Parenthood at the same time. And it's like, no, just stop. Don't allow them to do abortions, but maintain Planned Parenthood because those
Okay,
are necessary for so
I'll
many
meet you
other
halfway there.
things. And that's the
I'll
problem
meet
I
you
have
halfway
with it.
there. Yeah.
So like in Texas, it's like
Yeah.
there's just a handful of Planned Parenthoods that you can go to, and it's like, look, you will have fewer babies left at the fire station doors if these women can
Yeah.
have some place that they can go to work through this and decide to carry the baby to term and give it up for adoption, or realize that they do want to have this child as they go through the pregnancy. Don't just say shut down all Planned Parenthood so that we don't have abortion.
Right.
That's fucked up.
And like I said, I can meet you halfway there.
Yeah.
If we get rid of the abortion part and we keep Planned Parenthood otherwise, I can meet you halfway there. It's a step towards what I would like.
No, I'm not. Yes, I'm saying something about the state. That's where it's at
Okay,
right now.
yeah,
It's on the states to
I
decide,
agree.
and that's the thing, right?
I agree.
Isn't
Yeah.
that where we
No,
want it? We
I
want it
agree
on
with
the
Ed.
states to
However,
make their decisions, right? But Ed's like, wait, Robert said something about the state,
yeah.
but we want it to be.
Well,
We
no, no,
want
no. He's talking
states to
about
determine, right? Oh, the state. Oh, he meant the
he's
state.
talking about the state as opposed to states themselves, right?
Yeah.
He's using
Well, he's
the
trying to
state as
twist.
in the government, the
Yeah,
federal government,
he's
right?
trying to
No, no,
twist
no,
my
but
shit.
no, no, no. And it under the Constitution, it is a state's issue. It falls under the 10th Amendment. It is not something a power given explicitly by the Constitution to the federal government, so it is a state's issue per the 10th Amendment.
Right.
But talking from like an anarchist perspective, then it will be up to whatever community you're in at the time what you can and can't do with that baby, right?
Right.
And then it would go as far down to like the neighborhood decides. You know what I mean? Like it goes all
Right.
the way down to like that.
Well,
There's nothing you can really do.
to me, it speaks to states' rights. If a state wants to do that, whatever, but that's on them.
Yeah, yeah. Like I don't mind if a state completely outlaws it. I don't. I mean, I mind, but I don't have a choice. If a state says, oh well, you can have an abortion up to like age 8. You know what I mean? Like, what am I gonna do? I'm one person.
Right.
You know what I mean? I can't do anything about that.
No,
But
I
it
just don't
should be
think
left
they.
up to the states, and the federal government has no business
I don't.
doing that.
I will never agree with dismantling the entire Planned Parenthood structure just to get rid of abortion, right? Just to stop abortion because it's Planned Parenthood gets such a bad rap because that is one of the things that they do.
I
Um,
understand. Yeah, I understand that.
but they serve a great purpose.
Yeah.
They really do.
And I already told you I'll meet you halfway there if we.
Right.
I already told you I'll meet you halfway if we can cut the abortion part out and keep Planned Parenthood otherwise.
Now
Then I'll meet you halfway. That's at least a step towards what I'm.
Now, I will say this, touching back on the alcohol, because a few folks talked about that. But I'm going to tell you how you prevent your kids from drinking alcohol when they're a teenager, or or do a real good job of curbing it. Is when they reach puberty, like I would say around somewhere between for a boy between 10 and 13, for a girl somewhere around 12 to 13. um, you you give them their first beer, because man,
Yeah,
and you can even go younger, like
they
give
don't
them the
like it.
taste of it. They'll take a drink and they'll be, this is disgusting, and
Well,
you
so
tell them this is what all
hang on.
alcohol tastes like. It's horrible until you're an adult. When you're an adult, it'll start to taste better.
So hang on, because this had the opposite effect on me. Um,
Yeah, but you're an
so this is
alcoholic.
obviously way past. Wait, well, no.
Yes, you are.
Anyway, what happened was when I was probably like probably as young as 8. Like when I went and got my dad a new beer, like he'd be like, "Oh yeah, go get me a beer," and I'll go get him a beer. My reward for doing that was I get to take the first sip, right? And that's pretty common. That's not something that at least back then it was common. Now it would be like sacrilege, but back in 1998 when I was 8 years old, like that was fine. People did that. I wasn't the only one. But yeah, you get the first sip because you brought it to him. You opened it, right? Because you don't bring someone, and to this day, I don't ever do this. You never bring someone an unopened beer. That's rude, right? You open the beer for them and you give it to them. Um, but yeah, so I always got the first sip, and I didn't like it at all, but I did it every time because I was like, oh, I want to be a grown up. I want to be, you know what I mean? Like I was like, oh yeah, I can do it. I can be a grown up. I want to be a grown up. You know what I mean? And so yeah, and now
Yeah,
here
see,
I
it
am.
looks like
So
it looks like Quest is making it is working on his own little alcoholic. His Franny is
true,
6.
Ed.
She loves beer, always trying to steal from Daddy. But see, now my kids, they were young.
Yeah.
I let them both have a sip out of a beer, and I was like, "You're not going to like this." Because I do the little
Well,
psychological things.
girls
I prep
typically
them.
don't like beer too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
bullshit.
yeah.
Yeah, I've known lots of girls that like beer.
No, no, no. I'm not saying that they
when they're
none of them
when
do.
they're
I'm not saying none of them
teenagers,
like it,
that's what
right?
they're going to
Obviously,
drink.
there's exceptions.
It doesn't matter if they like it or not when they're
No, they
teenagers
drink
at a
Mike's Hard
party.
Lemonade. They drink fucking. They
Hell.
drink wine
Well, I
coolers.
grew up in a
No, they drink
different
Coke
time
wine
where there
coolers,
wasn't
and
all
they
that
drink
bullshit.
fucking vodka.
There wasn't all that bullshit so much
Well, then,
whenever I
or they
was.
drink vodka.
Now it's
Women
all.
love. I don't know what it is. Girls, teenage girls especially love vodka.
That's
At
because
least when I was
big
when I was a
alcohol
teenager.
is targeting kids.
Yeah, that's probably why.
That's really what it is. All right, John's got been afflicted with the big game. We've gone longer than he wanted to, so we're gonna get the hell out of here. We could bullshit about this all night, but
I know we could argue about this all night because they drink White Claw nowadays. Yes, Redmond Randy, they do.
now
But that wasn't available back when I was a teenager. So it was Mike's Hard, it was apple cider, and it was vodka. Any kind of vodka girls would like.
yeah, they big alcohol targets kids now. That's just really what it is. I mean, let's be honest.
Seems
But
like it.
all right, so John, if you could take a moment and tell these fine folks where they can find us and how they can help us and all those fun things that they like to do.
I will. Yes. Hopefully I don't lag through it, but let's see what happens. Um, so make sure you hit that like button if you haven't already. I see a bunch of you have, and that's awesome. Thank you guys so much for doing that. Subscribe if you haven't already. I don't know if you're on YouTube, or if you're not on YouTube, go on YouTube and subscribe. That would be awesome. Also, down in the description, we have all of our links to all of our stuff, including our Buy Me a Coffee, which is a great way to support the show. We've gotten a bunch of donations. Um, Loving Buy Me a Coffee. It's pretty awesome. So there's options for a one-time donation if you like us just tonight, and you feel like we deserve money just tonight. There's a way to do it there. And we have a goal for $100. We are 65% of the way there, which is awesome. Um, so once we reach that $100 goal, I will be doing a drunk gaming stream with the people who have supported us. We'll be doing Cards Against Humanity this time, and then we'll probably be doing Jackbox and some other stuff later on. But for now, we're gonna do like Cards Against Humanity. We're gonna stream it. It's gonna be fun. I highly recommend it because I'm a fun drunk. You can ask Robert. Um, so yeah, make sure you do that because that helps us out a lot. Or you can do a monthly donation. Monthly donations entitle you to perks. There's 3 different tiers of perks, including a weekly private show, including what was the other thing? I know the third one, the highest level, is being a guest on the show. The second level is a monthly game night that we'll do with our $10 supporters. So make sure you go and check those out, see which ones you like, see which ones you can afford. Obviously, don't break your own bank. We're not trying to take all of your money, just enough for us to survive. That's all we want. Um, so yeah, make sure you go and check that out. We also have our Twitter, which is at the Gen Gap P. Make sure you click that link. Make sure you follow us because I'm on there constantly, and I am a lot of fun on there. I slam dunk on fucking status all day. You'll see me go back and forth like ridiculously, like more than I should ever, because I don't know when to stop. And then we also have our Discord server. Discord server is where there's a bunch of cool people over there to chat with. So if you don't want to chat with us, or if we're not there, you can chat with other followers and start a little community. It's a nice little cool place to go. People are in voice chat all the time. I pop in once in a while. Robert rarely pops in, but he's there sometimes. Also notifications. If YouTube doesn't give you a notification, I or Robert, tonight was Robert, we'll be putting a notification in there about half an hour before the show starts so you know that it's coming, even if YouTube decides to tell you. Also where you can submit videos for our Monday night show. And our funny video submissions tab. You can go there. Then yeah, that's it.
So this is an example of when John is pretty tipsy. Because your normal 1 minute spiel, what was that, 5 minutes? Was that 5? I think that was 5 minutes.
Well, I was trying to put everything.
You're tipsy what?
I was trying to get everything out there.
You're tipsy what?
Trying to get everything out there.
Ramble what?
I'm trying to get everything out there.
You're a rambler.
No, I wasn't rambling. I was trying to get all the information out there.
Yeah, I know you too well, Jim.
That's it.
I know you too well. Plus, you got that cherry red nose going on. All right, so yeah.
I know I did it earlier.
Yeah, it's cherry red. That's the Irish drinking label thing. That's the only thing I can attribute it to. That's how you know when John's been drinking.
Yeah,
the redder the nose, the more he's drunk.
But that happens at the beginning. That doesn't happen like throughout. That only happens at the beginning.
No, you just don't see it.
It goes away after a while.
Those on this side
That's
see
it. Okay.
But yeah, right. So much love to everyone for showing up tonight. We're gonna actually the next 2 streams that are coming at you are probably going to be John solo, or if he pulls in a guest to host, a guest co-host to go with him. The next show will be Monday night at 9:30 p.m. for Fill in the Gap with some humor and fun to get your week started off. And then, of course, on Wednesday for a rousing episode of Shooting the Shit, which is at 9:30 p.m. Both of those shows I will not probably be at because the big move is happening, and we're going to be getting ourselves situated over the next few days up in the new area, but not in the new property yet. Then, of course, we'll be back a week from now on Friday. I am expecting that I'll be here for that, which will be Friday at 9:30, just like tonight. All of those times are the Eastern time zone, the one and only true time zone, not to be confused with all the rest of you posers out there who can't get your clocks straightened out. We're going to get the hell out of here. Thanks everyone for showing up, for all the likes, for all the chat, and all the fun. And we'll see you again next week. Until then, be good, be safe, and peace out, everyone.
Yeah, see you guys.
The war will begin.